Good morning, this is Ron Brown. It's about 11 a.m. on Friday morning, August 12th, 2022. I'm recording this video and I'm calling this Power Techniques with HGS. I'm going to talk about User SmartGroups today and maybe some other things, but let's go ahead and get started. Here's my standard risk disclaimer. Any stock, index, or ETF mentioned in this presentation is not a recommendation to buy or sell. All trading strategies are used at your own risk. If you're not an HGSI user, you should be, and you can get a free 30-day trial without submitting a credit card by going to this web address, or just go to highgrowthstock.com and you'll be able to find a link to the trial. Now, if you're an Insider Club member, you're going to have access to the PDF file, and if you just go to your help menu, I know a lot of people don't know how to find this. Go down to Member Services and then, of course, log in, and then you will find the link, Ron Brown's Investing Insider Club. Click on the latest one. The latest, most current is August 2022, and it's going to bring this up. Now, there will be a new link on here after I complete this video, but this is what I have from last week, and it tells here how to install these add-ons that I'm going to install today. And I had a video on here about the HGS box stock add-on, and I've added some add-ons to that this week, and I'm going to show you what they are. But if you come in here and download this PDF, you're going to find videos going back years, and a lot of these are out of date because I'm always improving upon what I do, but everything's linked from here, so there's a wealth of videos if you want to go through them. Anyway, this link to the PDF file for individual add-on zip files, if you click on that, it's going to bring up this PDF, and you can see that I have my HGS box stocks in here, earnings out. This goes to a folder that I maintain every day. When the earnings come out, I put them in that folder. So if you want box stocks with whose earnings are out of the way, we use those scans. Here's box stocks, undercut and rally, and box stocks, shadow stocks, or stocks $30 and less that are showing earnings growth. Now, if you want to know, well, that's if they're a box stock, they're showing earnings growth, but shadow stocks are $30 and under. If you want to know what a box stock is and how it's calculated, this is something that Ian and his group did years ago, even before I was involved, and it talks about how these boxes are determined, box 1 through box 10, and these criteria have to be met. Just think of these stocks as having some sort of consistent earnings growth. Of course, box stocks are the best, but turnaround stocks are stocks that have tumbled or they've missed earnings, and now they're recovering with their earnings growth. So these are linked off of that PDF file that I just showed you. Now, what I want you to do is follow along and just select these box stocks if you want to follow this process and add them. Now, I'm going to download these add-ons and show you how to install them. I'm working with a version of HGSI where I deleted all of my smart groups, so I can just show you how this will look if these are installed. So I'm going to click on the first one and do a save as. I'll put it in a download folder. Get this out of the way and do the earnings out version. Save as. Then I'll do the undercut and rally version. And then finally I will do the shadow stock version. Okay, so I've downloaded these files. These are also add-ons, just like the add-on that you add on to update my files. Not just like that add-on, but it's the same process is what I'm trying to say. So I'm going to go under Preferences. I'll clean the screen up first so it isn't so distracting. And just go into the Preferences menu and select Install Add-on. And I'll start with the one that's on top. That's all there is to it. Then you have to run through a very short process, Install Add-on. This is the Undercut and Raleigh version. Do the next version. These are earnings out. And finally, I'll do the standard box stocks. Now that I've installed those, I'll go to the designer, and under User SmartGroups you can see that these box stocks are all here. And they've already built. These are all end of day. When I installed them, it went in and pulled out the securities that meet the requirements of the filters. I'm going to go up here and click on this folder right here, and this opens up the Manage User SmartGroups window, and I'm going to go in here and I'll just double click on this, and you can see that I'm using all securities. Now, because you're importing these on your own, selecting the ones you want, I am not going to overwrite what you put in here. So if you want to not use all securities, if you just want to use, for example, the top 50, just select this and only 50 will be selected, or if you want 25 or whatever, because these are not going to be touched after you install them. So I'll just cancel this, and let's just go in here. Let's look at all these leaders. You can see that there are quite a few of them, 86 now. If I click through to the warehouse view, and I'm just going to go up to my daily prospecting scans and click on this one, which is 1A for the intraday view, and then I'll sort on raw combo positive, and you can see that these what's going on with these box stocks today. These are the box stock leaders. They're leaders because they've outperformed the S&P over the last 21 days. That's how I came up with it. But these go into the Smart Group, and let me bring that Smart Group up. These go directly to the User SmartGroups, or the regular SmartGroups, HGSI Consistent Earnings Growth. And that's what I'm screening against. These are updated daily when it goes through the fundamental process of updating. All of these box stocks are being recalculated every day, so it's fresh. It's not like it's an old list of stocks. Now I've got the number one stock on here. I've had it for 4 days or 5 days. I bought it coming out of this little pullback cup here. With the effort to rise, I bought it here the next day, and it continues to move higher in a strong industry group. Well, the group's 76, but by strong I mean this group line is moving up, as you can see. Now, I haven't rebuilt the industry groups in this version of HGSI yet today, so let's just go in and I will rebuild the indexes in the group. It's taking the current information from Thinkorswim and it's rebuilding the industries. This is an older, slower computer, and this still happens pretty quickly. Almost done. I'm not going to pause it. I just want to show you how this works on a 7-year-old computer. Okay, now let's bring this back up, and you can see that this group, well, it kind of flattened out today, but that was updated just now when I ran through. But this stock continues to move higher. What are the credentials on it? Relative strength of 98, group is 76. This is a turnaround stock, it looks like. Earnings fell off, but now the revenue and earnings have been going up. And it's the group has been really a good group recently, as you can see, coming off this low. And what else? I saw another one in here that I've got. Here it is, Martin. Now I bought this when it was extended, but the 3 remained above the 6, and it was closing near its high on these days right here. I bought it right off of this pullback here, and with the 3 staying above the 6 and this closing near the high most days. These one-day black candles don't bother me at all. You can see that this stock is out to a new high. Yeah, I didn't get it back here, but with the market being strong and this stock showing strong earnings growth, I went ahead and bought it. It's always better to buy them in low-risk situations, but when there's a strong market and you look at the individual candles and see that they're closing near their high, and with a decent stop in place, I'm just not risking that much money. Okay, those are the leaders, smart groups. Let's go back to that designer, and let's look at, I didn't want to do that. Okay, these are same thing, $75 or less. These are stocks in a counter trend. By a counter trend, I mean the 3 below the 6. If you look down this column right here, that tells you that the 3 is below the 6. This column tells you what the VPOC's doing, either up or down, up here, down here. So let's take a look at this stock. It's up 6.82% today. It had pulled back, but today you can see that here's the pullback, here's the counter trend, here's an accumulation day, a little distribution day yesterday, but today the 3 is going up through the 6. This is a semiconductor stock. You can see that the semiconductors are going up today. We're having another strong day. And look at this earnings growth up here. Very strong through here. Just look at the graph. It tells you immediately about the direction of the earnings growth. Okay, let's look at another one here. This one's up 212. This one's up 8.96 today, holding at 85% of its intraday range. RS of 99. It crossed down 3 days ago. This is Target Hospitality. This has been a strong stock which has been consolidating recently. And here it is. Here's a accumulation day. This was a no demand day, but today the 3 is crossing through the 6 and the volume point of control also turned positive. So these are low risk entries. And this is a pullback near the 50 on these stocks. And there's only 4 of them, and they're not doing much today. Let's take a look at Blackstone. You can see it's near the 50-day moving average. This is a 200, this is a 100, this is a 50. It's had a few accumulation days here. It's setting up. It looks like it might go again. The group looks like it's moving up today when it has the past few days. So that would be a possible stock to set up a buy stop on with a stop put in place at the same time. Okay, now those are just the regular box stocks. These are stocks whose earnings are out. Same thing, I'm not going to go through these. Just remember that these earnings are out because what this group of stocks does and I'll edit this one. Sorry. This is the source group. Box stocks. But in the filter, what I did is I added group member of the earnings out group, which I maintain. So not only is this looking at box stocks in one group right here, it is going using this filter. It also has to access the earnings out folder. And if you're a member of the Insider Club, you have this. If you're not, you can join so you can have access to it, because there is a folder here which I call earnings out. These are all of the earnings out stocks that are in industry groups. I limit it to that. And let me take this filter off. You can see that since earnings season began, 3,321 stocks have their earnings out. I like to use this because I don't want to worry about earnings. So you can see the earnings due here. Well, this one says the earnings are still coming up, so that's a mistake. But earnings dates do change from platform to platform because they change earnings dates. So what I do is if I see something like this, I go in to Thinkorswim and confirm that earnings date. Here's Thinkorswim, and you can see the earnings date is coming up. So that earnings date must have been changed. Either Zacks or bar chart. I believe Zacks maintains these earnings dates. And I always look at this earnings due column to make sure that if there is a mistake, I'm aware of it. Okay, let's move on with this. Okay, earnings out. These are undercut and rally. Let's go down there first. These are stocks, HGS box stocks, undercut and rally stocks. Let's just take a look at some of these. Make sure I'm in intraday, which I am, and you can see that none of these are going up. Well, one of them's going up today. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm not at the top of the list here. I need to get up to the top of the list. Okay, that's better. I was on number 4. So there are some. Here's Centopia. Centopia. I'm not sure how you pronounce that, obviously. Okay, here's the chart. Earnings are out. You can see the next earnings date is in November. You can also see that this gapped up. This gapped up more than likely on earnings, but guess what? It's following through today. Let's look at the fundamental data again. This is packaged food. Sounds like a solar stock, doesn't, but it's not. So here's the accumulation period. Let's look at this just on I'm going to go down here to these Williams charts. You can see that there were several days of VPA flags holding steady until earnings came out, then a big earnings spike. Average volume's good, 1.4 million shares a day. So it may be gaining some momentum. Now looking down here, it looks like there's one that the earnings came out today or yesterday, and it's down 3.47% today. But it's at 81.25% of its daily range. So you can see this is an overreaction to earnings. And what happened here? The smart money, it looks like, is buying this gap down. So those who got shaken out by earnings news are out of their positions. They're stopped out, but buyers are coming in here and picking this up. The earnings last time were $1.33, up 1,300% from the same quarter the prior year. I'm going to do an alternate N. Let's just go in here, and I go to bar chart generally, since that's one of the data providers. Let's click on news and headlines. It looks, I don't see anything really negative here. 33% increase a quarterly dividend. This must have been a knee-jerk reaction to this news. Consequently, buyers stepped in. One thing about the Williams charts I like, and you have these in your files, is that if the stock price closed higher than the prior day, it's green. If it closed lower, it's red. So you can see this close is lower than this one, and this close is lower than this one, and then it turned green again on this effort to rise. Gapped open. This close is slightly lower than this, so it's a red bar, but one red bar does not mean a heck of a lot, and then it just continued up, and then lower, lower, and then we had a sharp sell-off here on relatively heavy volume. If I put a crosshair on here, you can see the volume is heavy here. It wasn't so heavy on this one, but on this day it was. Then a gap down, and buyers stepped in here. This clearly shows lack of supply. Volume was not heavy, but it gapped down here, and then it closed near the high, which is an indication of lack of supply, and we have a VPA flag, strength seen returning after a downtrend. You notice I'm not using any indicators here, just a plain old naked chart. Okay, let's get back to this. These are undercut and rally. These crossed over in the past 2 days, and these are counter trend. This one has a fan up. This one has no fan. These are counter trends, fan up, counter trends, no fan. So let's look at the counter trends with the fan up. There's only 9 of them. Go back to this, and let's take a look at these. Information Services Group earnings are out because the next earnings date is clear out in November. Yesterday the volume was low, the spread was narrow, and the close was down, but it's up 1.85% today, trading at 88.29% of its range. So the fan is up. This is a counter trend. Let's bring it up. This is a real counter trend. I don't know what happened here. Obviously, let's look here. Volume's not too bad, close to 500,000 a day. This had to be an earnings announcement, but let's take a look here. This is no supply. Why? Because the volume dried up. That means the selling has stopped. This here is a test because volume is low, but it's near its high of the day. So you can see it dried up here after the heavy selling. And this volume bar over here really messes this up. But I don't like to limit these volume bars. Look at that volume bar on this beginning of this move as it moved up. Which if that bothers you, you can go in and edit the volume, and you can clip volume on spikes greater than, let's say, 10 times average volume. And now we get a little different picture here, don't we? Or I can make that go into volume. You can make this number anything you want. It was set at 3 times. Now we get a totally different picture on the volume, but see how all of these are truncated? That's why I like to leave it without a clip on it, even though you get some of these huge volume spikes. But what do they tell you? They tell you, or I should say they tell us, that the smart money is piling into this stock. Look at that volume spike. This is an effort to rise. Here's the open. Here's the close, pulled back a little bit, and then it shot up, and then it based sideways for a while and started working its way higher with a series of higher highs and higher lows. Okay, let's go back to the designer. And the shadow stocks, I only have 2 in here. Leaders outperforming the S&P. You can see there are 97 of them. And these are the counter trend stocks. Let's take a quick look here. Looks like they're doing quite well today. 3 out of 4 are up. And Photronics. Look at that earnings growth. Look at the curve on that. Here's a sell-off, probably a reaction to earnings. It's a shakeout. How do I know it's a shakeout? Because it gapped here, traded all the way down, and buyers started coming into it. And by the end of the day, it was at 50%. It generated a transfer of ownership, which means it went from weak hands to strong hands. On a down bar, if this were an up bar and we got that signal, transfer of ownership, it would say that they're selling into it. But here they're buying it, gapped open from the prior close. Then it shot up, went up into resistance. But today it's breaking out of here, trying to. Semiconductors must be strong today. I haven't really looked. But let's go to the I have an undercut and rally chart here. And it looks like the group is moving up today. And you can see there was an accumulation day here and then a crossover day today. You look down here, it shows this. The volume point of control went positive here 2 days ago. Fan is up. It's in an uptrend. It looks like it's going to go higher. Earnings are coming up on the 24th. Okay, let's go to the shadow stocks, the leaders. Bring this up. You're going to find that all of these are $30 and under. If you look at the last price, if I sort on this, you can see here's one that's now over $30. It was under $30, but it's moved up nicely. And look at this crossover right here. Beautiful. This would have come up with a crossover scan. Now if I go in here and look at these columns, you can see that it crossed over 5 days ago, 0 being the crossover day. Actually 6 days ago now, because this is end of day data. But the VPOC was positive 18 days ago. Clear back here on this crossover, and it never did go negative. So the bulls have been in control of this even through this chop here, based upon the 1010 volume point of control indicator. Just with these groups that I'm suggesting to you, this is really, if you're a long side player, especially, any of these smart groups will serve you well, and you can select the number of stocks you want to include. Now I want to show you one more thing that I've added back to my files. And I put these Tom Williams scans back in. They were down in inventory because he is or was a VSA VPA person. He passed away in 2016, I think. But his work was very important in popularizing VSA VPA. Now I've been using his charts, but I want to point out these were in here. These two I added. Now, because I'm talking about these because these are box stocks. So, close is higher, bullish VPA flag, and a box stock. Now, the VPA flag can either be positive or negative. Let me go to all securities. I'll hold my alternate key and hit the space bar, and then I'll reapply the filter. And you can see there's 66 stocks in here, and I'll go to the intraday version. It's the same filter, and we can see how these are doing. So what the requirement on this is that the price be, the close yesterday was higher than the close the prior day, and these are box stocks. And I'll quickly show you the filter. So it's a group member of the all VPA smart group and also consistent earnings growth. So it's an and member of both of these. So what this does is it only looks for stocks that had a VPA flag and are also box stocks. Now all these VPA signals are not necessarily positive signals. You can see there are several no demand in here. And the transfer of ownership can either be positive or negative. But most of them are going to be positive or bullish VPA flags. By accessing that smart group, it's pulling out all of the VPA signals, not just the positive ones. But let's look at these no demand stocks. You can see the no demand stocks, that several of them are up today. So it doesn't mean that just because there was no demand yesterday, and this is the days since a VPA flag, it doesn't mean that there's not going to be demand today. So let's just look at IPI, for example. It's up 2.79% at 92% of its range. Volume is light, and there was no demand yesterday. You can see that right here, but there is demand today. In fact, there's a low volume test. Now, it's kind of hard to see with this fan. Let's just go to the Williams chart, and I'll use the thick bar. I have thick bar and thin bars both in here, and you can see that this stock is really starting to trend up now. It's kind of hard to see unless I zoom in. Here's a low, here's a higher low, higher high, higher high. This low is higher than this low. That's kind of in a consolidation pattern. But what do we have? We have no demand here, but we have a low volume test here. So this would be an excellent candidate just to put in a watch list. But let's see where the strength is here today. I'm going to sort on raw combo. It's up 6.3% at 97% of its daily range. It only trades 140,000 shares, but there was an effort to rise yesterday, so this is a follow-through on an effort to rise. There's the effort to rise. There's the follow-through. Let's look at one more here. Peabody Energy. Now this is a no demand yesterday, but now it's a test. Let's see. I looked at this one. Here's a shipping stock. Okay. You can see the Williams charts, how clean they are. It's so easy to see if a price was higher today than yesterday. And here is an effort to rise yesterday, which was the VPA flag. It would have appeared here also with this signal, and it would have appeared here in this scan because there's VPA flags on these days, and the green bar tells us that the price was higher than yesterday. So it would have appeared clear back here when it was trading for 22. It's now up at 27. Okay, this video is getting a little longer than I wanted it to be, but I covered a lot of information here. I'm just showing you, if you don't want a whole bunch of smart groups, use these box stock smart groups. And also, if you go into the Williams scans, you'll know what this scan does now. It looks for box stocks. Now, I probably will add a Williams smart group so you don't have to look for this within the scans. But if you do want to find it, just go to folder number 14, Tom Williams scans under my name, and you'll find them there. And you can find all kinds of good candidates in these smart groups and with these scans, or this scan that I'm showing you today. Thank you for listening, and I hope to see you in the Insiders Club if you're not there.